Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. It is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime on trending criminal cases. This is a case we're about to talk about that's been on my radar for quite some time. The great community that we have here at STS Nation flagged me on it, and then it's, as you all know, one story after another. But we are finally here. We have arrived to discuss Grant Solomon, Angie Solomon, Gracie Solomon, and Aaron Solomon. It all revolves around the suspicious death of 18-year-old Grant Solomon, which was ruled a freak accident back in 2020. He was run over by his own car. His family, namely his mother and sister, believe something more sinister was afoot. His father, who's a former Nashville news anchor, is accused by the family. All of these are allegations by the family, not corroborated by law enforcement, that he was both sexually and emotionally abusing the mother, Angie, and the daughter, Gracie, for years. Aaron Solomon, again, a former news anchor in the Nashville area, strongly refutes all of this, and it is played out in the court of public opinion. In a very stunning twist. It's a news cliche, which I try to stay away from, but here it is applicable. Shocking, bombshell, whatever you want to use here. The mother now, Angie Solomon, the ex-wife of Aaron Solomon, is behind bars. She's charged in a murder for hire plot to kill him. So this story, we have a lot of unraveling to do here, and here to enlighten us, best guests, the General, Mark Davidson. He is back and on your screen right now. He is an active DA in rural Tennessee. He began his career as I believe, a prosecutor, prosecuting cases, and then returned to the DA's office in 2011, elected district attorney in 2018. Next up, you've got a formidable criminal defense attorney in Mary Turner. She does not mess around. She graduated from the University of Alabama with a BS in nursing back in '86, got her Juris Doctorate degree in '89. She is also a graduate of Jerry Spence's Trial Lawyers College. That's always a name from the past. He wears those funky cowboy jackets with the, I don't know what you call those things, hanging off. And Mary herself has taught trial advocacy at the University of Alabama School of Law. Last but certainly not least, she's been on the show to discuss Sebastian Rogers, and she's back now. Heather Cohen is host of Justice Warriors podcast, and she's done a lot of TV, a lot of investigation ID type shows, and she is very active in both in the private investigation world, but specifically also looking for missing children. So welcome to everybody. Before I get cracking here, I just want to say that this is obviously a very contentious and bitter battle that's been going on with this family, which now took a pretty ugly turn. Mary, I'm going to keep you muted for a second here. And I just want to formally invite Aaron Solomon. I know he watches some of this stuff, and I would like to hear his side of the story. He has a platform to come out here, and he has a platform to come out here and speak to Surviving the Survivor, as well as Gracie Solomon, who has publicly spoken out against her father. Now, as of this hour, as far as we know, Angie Solomon, she remains behind bars on a $500,000 bond. She was arrested just back on April 11th of this year for allegedly attempting to hire a hitman to kill her ex-husband, Aaron Solomon. So that lays it out a tiny bit, a lot more to go. We'll talk about Grant. But General, I'm going to start with you. Our original case is a murder for hire plot that was executed against Dan Markel, and those people are facing charges, but they're hard cases to prosecute Here in this case, you've got undercover police. What's the process here from a prosecutorial standpoint to to bring charges here and convict this woman? These allegations are true that she was trying to have her husband killed.
Yeah, so the based on the facts as I understand them, and I actually had a case similar to this. We had an attorney actually, excuse me, in West Tennessee who made multiple attempts to have his wife killed by a hitman, and it was similar. We had an undercover officer meet with the defendant, and he recorded that meeting on video. Where the suspect offered casino chips, a picture of his wife, a diagram of the house, and whatnot. And this case is very similar to that, and that was a good case. We convicted him. He's in prison, and murder for hires usually don't go very well. That's in my experience, never been a good plan. And so I expect in this case that law enforcement will be providing to the DA's office video, whether it's body cam or dash cam or some other hidden camera, but video of this encounter with her on video allegedly offering up car title as an initial payment, and then additional payments for him to make her estranged husband or ex-husband go away or disappear and be buried. So, this is more of a direct evidence case than the Markel case. That was a whodunit for a long time. Mm-hmm. This is not really a whodunit case.
Yeah, I mean, this is undercover police officers. So Heather, thank you for being here. And Mary's just adjusting her shot back there in the COE. We'll bring her in once she is fully adjusted. Shout out to Black Widower in the Republic of Ireland. But so Heather Cohen, you've actually had conversations prior to her arrest with Angie Solomon. Tell me, I mean, how long ago were these? What was she interested in speaking to you about, if you're able to tell us? And how surprised are you that she's now behind bars?
It's been well over a year ago, maybe more, since I spoke with her. Am I surprised? Nothing surprises me anymore, to be honest. No, I'm not. However, I think it's important, especially with my experience, kind of, I have more, like the general here and even Mary, I have more of a behind the scenes sort of background. I get to be in there with my feet on the ground and talk to people, behind the scenes. So what I've seen a lot in my career, and it has certainly jaded me on the justice system and how things transpire. I would really need to know more before I could really say. I mean, I know there's this very direct evidence, as the general said, but I would want to know, how did this encounter transpire? Exactly what happened. I know from my conversations with Angie, she was a very frustrated mother. Long before the incident that took her son's life, she was dealing with things within the court system, which, granted, I only have her side of the story, but from what I was gathering, she had really been railroaded. And, you've got this high profile figure in the community who has money and connections and all that. And from what I understand, that Gracie had actually stated in court, testified, told a judge that her father was sexually molesting her. And that they were trying to get them help, and the court ultimately granted Aaron custody. And from what I understand, Angie was the one that ended up kind of being demonized in all of that, and then later was not allowed to see her children for a certain period of time. And so she was just ultimately, she was made out to look like a crazy person, which is what, I mean, I'm not saying I only have her side of the story, but I've seen these things enough times in the justice system that I have to consider that it could be true. That she was railroaded, that money and connections played a huge part in the um outcome of the whole custody thing. There was, I know a lot of people, all of the followers of this case, all of Angie Solomon's supporters, they're all going to tell you they know the story that Grant Solomon was supposed to have been confronting his father on that day, and he had, I believe, just turned 18. And from what I understand, he was actually planning to go to court and to try to get custody of his sister, to get his sister away from his father, because his father was allegedly sexually molesting her. And so there was all this going on, and Grant had been very verbal with his friends and family about his plans to speak publicly and to out his father for these things that have been going on for all these years.
Yeah.
And then you just have this freak accident all of a sudden, and all these really weird little things like that. Again, from what I was told, that there was not even actually an appointment scheduled that day at the athletic facility. That was,
Mm.
I can't remember the man's name that the appointment was supposed to have been with, but that he had actually confirmed that there was not an appointment that day. So
And
again, all of my information is coming from Angie, but what I got from Angie is she was a very frustrated mother. She had been railroaded. The system had failed her. The system had failed her children. And could she have snapped and finally said, I'm taking this into my own hands and doing this vigilante style? Sure. I mean, she's a mom.
yeah. Yeah. This is a multi-layered story, and I'm about to kind of lay it out
Yeah.
and break it down piece by piece. Heather did a pretty good job of it right there. But you've got to look at the individual parts to, I guess, get the holistic picture. But first to Mary Turner, who is settled there. She, meaning Angie Solomon, the mother involved in this murder for hire plot, according to police now, she's behind bars. There was supposed to be some sort of bond reduction hearing. She's being held on $500,000 bond. It was supposed to be on April 15th. This was delayed. She's claiming indigency, so she's got a public defender. She was interviewed. She did a number of podcasts. In the past, she said on one of these podcasts, Gracie wants him locked up. I want him gone. And then said, I think God has my back on that. He's a danger to society. Mary Turner, this is, if you're rolling into town to defend this woman who's now behind bars, where do you begin here? This is, I assume you're going to try to use the word entrapment, maybe, that police coaxed her into this somehow. So where do you begin your work as a defense attorney if you are representing Angie Solomon here?
You always begin with as much information as you can get early on. You go and you talk to your client. And, again, I think I said this before. Are you a truth lawyer? Do you want to know the truth? Or do you want to then go through the discovery and things like that? And, listen to, okay, maybe listen to, hey, well, what about this? What about this kind of stuff? She's obviously talked to this investigator and said that she was distraught, I guess, and had been misrepresented by the by the justice system, by the domestic court system. And it sounds like early on, I guess the investigator has been helping her with different things. I mean, there's various, there was a lawsuit filed by Aaron regarding the information put on social media. So maybe there was some discovery through that was gathered that we could look at, but always start with the investigation and what you can gather before you go and talk to your client.
Yeah, Lorna McKenzie, longtime chatter and STS Nationer. saying it's an interesting new case for sure, and that it is. It's not that new, though. It's just new to us right now. Allie B from Tennessee, from the epicenter of all this. Why was Grant wanting custody of Gracie when he turned 18? Why wouldn't Angie have gotten custody? Heather, let's go back to you on that, and then some questions for the general.
As I understand it, Angie could not get custody of the children because they had, like I said, they had railroaded her in this previous case, and she had to jump through all these hoops just to even be able to see her children. They made her out to be, just a mad woman, completely crazy and unfit and all this. And so she could not get custody of Gracie, but Grant wanted to get Gracie away from his father. So when he turned 18, he said, I'm going to take custody of my sister.
Yeah. Which is, what I guess a protective
Mhm.
older brother does. I just want to be abundantly clear that, these are allegations
Right.
on the side of Gracie and Angie. Angie obviously behind bars, but there was something that triggered her enough to literally pursue some sort of murder for hire plot. I don't think we know all the ins and outs of how the police caught on to this, how they basically got her to talk on, hidden surveillance, but apparently they did. So who was Grant Solomon? That's the question. He was an 18-year-old standout baseball player. His sister's name is Gracie, and he played at a place called Grace Christian Academy. That's in Franklin, Tennessee, and he was this protective older brother to Gracie. He was described as a promising athlete, deeply protective, and then he suddenly dies on July 20th of 2020. Now, it was officially ruled an accidental death. On the day that Grant died, he was at like a baseball facility, I think an indoor facility in the parking area. He meets his father, Aaron Solomon, reportedly for a pitching session, but you just heard Heather say that this person was never there to actually meet them, which is curious, and we can ask more about that. Now, Aaron claimed, General, that Grant exits his white Toyota pickup to grab his baseball gear, and then suddenly the truck rolls and drags him into a ditch. Aaron calls 911. Somehow it backed up, he says. Oh, my God, this is not good. Grant's found face up under the truck. But an EMS report here lists minimal injuries, laceration to the head, bruises on the hip and thigh, jaw impact. This is interesting to me right now, mainly because of the Karen Reed trial. A lot of people are saying, how in the world could John O'Keefe have been hit by a car because there were minimal injuries? But we've heard people, experts, describe that is very possible. General, to you, the question is, police were there for 57 minutes from what I understand, or maybe 47 minutes, one of those. And is it a thorough enough investigation into this, into this death? This is an 18-year-old, I was going to call him a kid. He's technically an adult, but an 18-year-old who gets run over, and police are in and out and gone within an hour. Oh, I think you're muted, Mark.
Yes, it's my understanding that that investigation did land on the DA's desk in that judicial district. And, I'm not privy to all the details of that. Wasn't my case, obviously, but that's not necessarily a complicated scene with a one vehicle incident running over a person and resulting in serious injury or death. It's not as complicated as, say, a two-car accident where you would have the highway patrol out doing a specialized investigation to determine exactly what happened here. So, an hour on scene, if they documented it well and the DA would have reviewed that, might have been sufficient. It's hard for me to say in hindsight, but apparently it was reviewed and determined that there was no grounds for charging a crime. Now, and it was ruled an accident. Now, I understand that people who are following this case and are familiar with the family and the issues and the allegations, there may be reason to be suspicious of all that. But at the end of the day, the district attorney's office apparently felt like they did not have sufficient evidence to move forward on that. So I don't see that changing. There are other avenues to try to pursue that, whether it's a wrongful death lawsuit or civil avenues. But when it comes to charging a crime, that's different. You need quite a bit of evidence, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And without that, I don't see the fact of that case being uncharged changing.
Yeah. Well, General, let me just follow up. So what, I guess my question is, what is an appropriate amount of time? Just today in Miami, there's this, they call it a causeway. It's long bridge that connects mainland Florida to the little islands out here. And there was a motorcyclist tragically killed in an accident. I guess he lost control, hit by a car. I'm not sure the details, but that causeway was closed all day long. This is for, not to minimize anything, a single vehicle motorcycle accident. They had the causeway. They didn't care. The traffic was backed up. Here, they're in and out in an hour. So my question is, what meets the threshold of a thorough investigation?
There really is no hard and fast timeline rule on that. It varies from department to department and case to case and scene to scene. I would expect a few hours on scene with a crime scene tape up to, keep the scene pristine. Make sure you document the scene, take appropriate photographs and measurements, interview your EMS people, things of that nature. So, if I had to throw a guess out, that's kind of what I would say. But it may be that department was just really, really efficient and good at their work.
Yeah.
I'm sure the DA would have reviewed that and raised questions about the effectiveness of that investigation.
Okay, well, that's good to know at least. Mary Turner, back to you. So on this 911 call, Aaron Solomon says to authorities, talking about his son, he's underneath the vehicle. It backed up. This is not good. I guess he didn't have it in park. That last part's curious to me. I look down to check an email. I look up and the truck's moving. Now, accidents do happen, Mary, and this very well could have been an accident. What's interesting to me is we have a case that we've been doing for a long time about Ellen Greenberg. In that case, she was stabbed 20 times, was originally ruled a homicide, and then over a long period of time changed to an unaliving, a self-unaliving, if you will. That's how we word it on YouTube. And long story short, when the fiance calls 911, he tells 911 what he thinks happened, that she fell on a knife. He doesn't even notice a knife that's in her chest, basically 4 or 5 inches deep, sticking out of her chest. My point here is he says, I guess he didn't have it in park. He's offering an explanation. Is that curious to you or just something somebody would say when they're calling 911, Mary? Oh, I have you muted. Hang on one second. That's my fault. Here we go. I got you unmuted.
You got me?
There you, yep.
See, I'm situated now. Okay, so I'm probably going to go rogue on you, but absolutely, I can see my son, who is 23 years old, getting out of the car and not putting it in park, and the car dragging him underneath. I really can, because he just doesn't pay attention. And he's been like that since he was born. So I can so see this. And you're talking about, and like I said, I'm going rogue. You're talking about a father who witnessed his son get run over by a car. And so perhaps that's what we do as human nature. We say, oh my God, I guess he didn't put it in park or something, something like that. He's trying to give an explanation of why something happened. So I don't have a problem with him saying that. And I mean, he called 911 and he's providing something. I guess this is what happened. I also can see a ball player getting out. He said he was a great athlete and getting out of the car, wanting to go to his pitching lesson, or maybe he just wanted to go pitch with his dad. And just forgetting stuff. And so I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay. And Heather, to you, AP just weighed in the chat saying the father was setting the scene. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he isn't. It's just interesting to provide an explanation. Look, I don't know how I would react if, I have a son, if something, God forbid, ever happened. You don't know what you're going to say, but I guess as an investigator, is that something that would stick out to you?
Absolutely. Because again, it's hard to say how we would respond in these sort of situations. Thank God we haven't personally been in those situations. But you would think your son's just been, you'd be like, almost incoherent. Like it was just way too, oh, it was just way too coherent for somebody that just witnessed their son being ran over by a vehicle, that you would come up with an explanation and already be working through it. You would think that you wouldn't start processing how those sort of things until later. That in that moment you would still be just frantic about the fact that your kid just got run over.
Yeah, I mean, these are all excellent points. Now, Angie Solomon, General, she was public. Again, she was speaking publicly before she was behind bars about all this. She outrightly says she never believes it was an accident. The claims here for her regarding this accident is that there was no autopsy ever done. She was also pushing at one point for a exhumation of the body, no scene reconstruction. And according to her, and I don't know if she actually enlisted, and Heather, you might know, a private investigator to get all these answers, but she also says that the truck damage was inconsistent with his story, that Grant's clothes were clean, no road rash or burns. And here's a quote from her. She did an interview with the Daily Mail back in 2023, and she told the Daily Mail, "It's not possible to be dragged that far across asphalt without marks. His clothes were perfectly clean. He was not run over." Again, the claims from the mother, Angie, who is now behind bars in a murder for hire plot against her ex-husband. Mark, what about that? That she's claiming that the injuries from the accident aren't consistent with what the father says happened.
Yeah, I understand that she's going to, make those allegations, or apparently did make those allegations. And it's certainly a tragedy to lose a child, a son, especially under, such a terrible circumstance. But I have to believe there's probably some answers to those questions and another side to that story with the investigation and the case file that the police have with the DA. So I would be surprised if there was no autopsy. That would surprise me quite a bit. So I'd be curious to find out a bit more about that. But again, this happened some years ago, and it's my understanding that the case was reviewed by the DA for potential charging, and he concluded that there was insufficient evidence. So, I don't know what she's referring to other than beliefs she has, but it seems pretty clear to me that the investigation, despite the allegation that maybe it was awfully quick, did not reveal any foul play.
Yeah. Heather, to you, so one of the other sets of circumstances that the mother laid out prior to being arrested is that, she pointed out, which I thought was interesting, there's absolutely no surveillance video from this Performance Institute, which I guess is not that unusual, but almost everyone's got a camera these days, and you would think that, they would have had a camera. But also the bigger thing here is that the father, Aaron Solomon, he claimed that 3 men helped at the scene, but they were never identified or interviewed. The time, by the way, was 57 minutes that police spent there on scene. And EMS photos show minimal visible trauma, which again, we're seeing this play out right now in the Karen Reed trial. There's not that much trauma on John O'Keefe. Some say dog barks, some say there's scratch marks from a car. It depends what side you're on. But from a private investigator standpoint, I think what's most interesting here is he talks about these 3 men. How come those men were never tracked down? That seems like it should be a fairly easy lead to follow up on.
It absolutely does. From what I remember, and I apologize if I'm saying something that's incorrect. I'm sure somebody will call me out on that. But from what I remember, those 3 men had come out of the facility, and this is a good point to correct something that you had said earlier. I think you said something about that man that he was supposed to have the interview with was not there. I believe he was there, but he just didn't know anything about an interview.
Okay.
And from I believe he may have been one of the 3 that came out. Again, I'm going off of memory. If I'm incorrect, I'm sorry, guys. But I think that she had said that one of the 3 men that had come out was the guy that he was supposed to actually have had an interview, or not interview, a session with. Sorry, that day. And there was a comment made about how I think Mary said something about he was probably excited to pitch and wanted to throw a ball with his dad. That is, I know that was not true. He did not want to go that day. And he had actually even made a comment that he didn't want to die that day.
Who
I
who did he
don't,
make? Who did he make that comment to?
I believe he made it to his mother.
Wow.
He did not want to go that day. He was planning to confront his father on that day. It was not going to be, I believe he was nervous about it. He was not looking forward to going. He did not want to go. His dad made a big fuss about it because he had supposedly, gone through great trouble to get this set up for him. And so,
Mm.
right.
Yeah, Mary Turner, just back to you, hearing what Heather just said, that apparently, according to Heather, I had not heard this, but I'm not 1,000% up to speed on this story, admittedly. So he apparently did not want to go with his father, ends up there with his father. Again, the father claims that 3 men assisted him once this happened, but those men were apparently never tracked down. I'm seeing in the chat that on the 911 call, you hear people, you don't know that it's those 3 guys. Was the proverbial ball dropped in this investigation, Mary Turner, do you think?
If
You-
if a crime was committed or if a crime was suspected, then it should have been followed up with. If the police officers arrive at the scene and see, and I think we're basing these things or all these on what the mother said, who lost custody of the children. And if this was a crime that they suspected a crime, then it should have been investigated. If they suspected that the father's story, he was lying, but they heard people on the 911 call, then, and they suspected that was crap, that 3 men helped him, then it should have been investigated. But, I do a lot of divorce work too. And unfortunately, we see a lot of times where there's parental alienation, where children are basically turned against one parent. So I'm just saying I would not probably take what um what Miss Solomon said at face value. I would make sure that we could substantiate the things that she is alleging, so this would better her chances in court.
Yeah. Mary, just I'm curious, would you in her defense now, how much of this could you use that she believed this was not an accident? I mean, obviously it's never a green light to go and kill someone. That's not the answer. But from a criminal defense standpoint, do you use some of this if you're defending her now?
I think if she believes that this happened, I think it's just like a kettle, a pressure cooker, right? And so she believes that she was mistreated. She believes that these children were wrongly taken from her. She believes that her daughter was molested. Her daughter comes on there. She believes that Grant was mistreated. And you've got this pressure cooker going on for years and years and years. And she believes that this accident was not an accident, that was an intentional killing by Aaron. Absolutely. Her mental state at the time is very, very important. Is she delusional? Is she paranoid? Is there something going on mentally with her? Those are absolute things that can be investigated and used.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to follow up on that in a minute. But from Allie B from Tennessee, people, it's kind of a small town feel, even though Nashville is so big. But mom is 1,000% manipulative, scary manipulative. Wait and see. This is according to Allie B, not the words of STS. Just so you know. And then Lee T here, also from the Nashville area. And I got your email. Thank you, Lee. Angie's very unreliable, has a long history. We've been watching for years here in Nashville. Heather, I mean, you're in that area. Why do so many people know so much about this family? I know he was a news anchor. For full disclosure, the COE and I know a news anchor in Nashville. We knew two. One's not there anymore. But why do so many people know so much about the inner workings of this family, or at least in this chat they do? Oh, you're muted.
I think probably just because this case has gotten so much attention and because of who he is. But I would like to follow up on what Mary was saying. You know, if we are going to dismiss these allegations outright, we would have to not only assume that Angie is a liar or crazy, we would also have to assume that the children were lying and or crazy. So I think that to dismiss those things outright, as the court system has done, it was really kind of a slap in the face to all of them. Even if Angie did have mental problems, what about the children? What about what they said in open court about, their father's abuse? I can't dismiss that. I can't write that off as just a crazy woman, I can't do that.
Interesting. By the way, someone in the chat said, never hate your ex more than you love your children, which I think is pretty profound. And here C. Taylor saying he was a public figure. There you go. So,
but when your ex has hurt your children, that's different. I mean,
yeah,
if you really did hurt them, then I can absolutely justify not killing, because two rights never make a wrong. And I
right.
always say that. Not killing, but I can definitely justify her hatred for him if he had hurt her children.
100%. Dana Nicole, I'm not bringing it up because I want to get to this comment, says parental alienation and brainwashing is a thing with kids. I mean, we're seeing that play out with the grandparents in the Dan Markel case, who, the ex-wife forbids the grandparents from seeing the grandchildren, basically, or at least on limited terms. But Gracie went public on Instagram to share a story. She was on YouTube as well. I'm going to play a clip right now. This is a little disturbing, but this is Gracie herself, Gracie Solomon, talking about her father in her own words, essentially saying that she was abused at his hands. Again, you're hearing in this chat some people saying maybe she was just manipulated by the mother. Maybe this is true. I guess, everyone's going to have to decide individually. But here is Gracie in her own words from a few years ago.
As a monster, it makes me want to vomit. I've been minimalized, but now I've found my voice to be able to tell you that my father raped me, hurt me, and I'm not going to be a victim of this monster. He's a rapist, he's a molester, he's a liar, and he's a killer. I hate my dad. I'm absolutely terrified of him for everything he has done to me, my brother, and my mom. I don't want to call him my dad anymore. He's never listened to me. He has hurt me sexually, physically, and mentally. He has caused so much pain for my family. He has tried to manipulate me and has manipulated others, and it has worked. Ever since I was born, my dad has done awful things to me. First, he never let my mom bathe me. It was always him. So by not letting my mom come in at all, it meant that he could do anything to me. I would always tell my mom I felt like I was more like a wife to him instead of.
I'm going to pause it there. Mark, this is obviously really disturbing to watch, but this is her in her words, and this is kind of the center piece of this story, is that this young girl, who's now a young woman, was being, according to her, essayed by her father. It is weird to me that, she's young at this point, and she's sitting here kind of reading what appears to almost be a script. I mean, Mark, I guess from a human perspective, not a DA for a moment, what do you make of this? And then from a DA's perspective, what kind of evidence is this potentially?
So this is obviously painful to watch. And you certainly hope those allegations are not true. But if they are true, you want to get to the bottom of it and investigate it and try to charge and prosecute it if you can. I don't know the circumstances of this video. Normally, law enforcement and the Department of Children's Services, upon receiving a complaint of this nature, a young person like this would go in for a forensic interview at one of our Carl Perkins centers with trained interviewers. Those are in a safe, welcoming environment. We don't drag kids into police stations anymore. We've come a long way. So it's in a child-friendly environment. The interview is done by somebody who's trained to not lead or provide answers to the minor child. And it's recorded and then observed by law enforcement in a separate room. That's normally the evidence that we want to take into court, is that forensic interview. The child can be made available for some limited cross-examination. And ultimately, if you don't have any corroborating evidence of what the minor is saying, becomes a credibility issue if that's what you're taking to court. So I feel confident that this was investigated. Again, wasn't my case, but I'm certain that the DA on this allegation as well would have reviewed it with law enforcement to determine if charges could be brought, and apparently not.
Again, yeah, the video is disturbing. I'm going to play it out a little bit more, and then we'll get Heather's take, and then we'll get Mary's take as well. So Vesper chiming in here sure does sound like a script, but not saying it couldn't be true. I mean, it's tough unless you're in that house behind those doors. I guess you don't really know. But here is Gracie continuing on, explaining what her father was doing to her. And it's not playing. Let's see here. And it's not playing. Let me try to bring this back in. Love when stuff like this happens live on YouTube. COE, what's going on here? Why isn't this thing playing? It's moving, and now I don't hear what's going on. Stand by, everybody. While the COE tries to fix that, Heather, let me go to you and let me unmute you. So she's obviously talking about really dark, disturbing things here. One of the things she says is that she was, wrapped in a towel, and the father would make her sit on her lap. Again, allegations from the daughter and the ex-wife now. You spoke to her. You spoke to, I don't know if you spoke to Gracie, but I know you spoke to Angie. What's your, I guess what's your gut tell you here? It's very hard, I think, to get a read on people when it comes to stuff like this, because people, bury very deep down some of the darkest secrets. But what was your read, if any, on this? By the way, before you go, also, Nikki Cuds is in the chat. Her father just passed away. May his memory be a blessing. And she's back. And I know it's going to be a rough bunch of months, but we're here for you. Go ahead, Heather.
All right. I don't like that it was being read. I know, I already know what the prosecution would say, or what the defense would say if he was being prosecuted. I just know how that would be torn apart. It would have been, and then you also have to consider, like, okay, she was raped, she was sexually, she was SA'd. Sorry.
Allegedly. Yeah.
Allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly, these things were done to her. And allegedly the court system had failed them miserably, failed to protect them, basically put them in the hands of the person that was abusing them, allegedly. So what was their state of mind? We really have to try to, and it is speculation because we couldn't possibly know what the state of mind is, but what was the motive behind going public with that? Like, why would we go public with that? What was the reasoning for that? Was it because they didn't have anywhere else to go and the court system wasn't helping them, so they were trying to get as much public support as possible? Or, what exactly was it that motivated, because the defense say, hypothetically, if Aaron was being prosecuted for this and that video actually was part of the evidence being presented against him, the accusation is certainly going to come out that the mother put her up to it. I mean, I'll just say it. That's what they're going to say.
Right.
And so for me, I wish it wasn't written. I wish if she really wanted to bring this to the public and get support, I wish she had just looked in the camera and just been raw about it and let those emotions fly and not, read it like that. But she's
I mean,
also a child.
yeah, I was
So,
going to say the problem with that is she's 12 years old.
right.
So at the time of this reading, which by the way, was I think 2023. So yeah, it was 2021. So it's she's only 16 now. I thought she was actually 18, but she would only be about 16 or 17 right now. And she's still being vocal, I think. And again, I'm opening up this platform to Aaron Solomon or Gracie if they want to come on. I don't think they want to come on together necessarily, but the platform is open. Mary Turner, to you. The reading doesn't matter as much as the mother putting it out on YouTube. It is an odd video here that we're watching. I guess my question is now, if there was a case pursued against the father here and you had to defend him, these are really sensitive cases. I mean, this is a 12-year-old girl alleging some horrific things about what her father did to her. How do you defend the father here?
It's parental alienation is exactly what's going on. And I'm just going to ask all of y'all, who remembers who bathed them at 1 year old? 1 year old.
The mother.
I definitely don't. But she said
Oh.
she said that her dad would be the only one that bathed her at the age of 1, and not her mother. Okay, I have no earthly idea how a 1 year old knows that. But what I'm saying is does that represent, and I would use it to represent that these seeds were planted in her head, and then she began to believe them. So we start, hey, at 1 he did this, this and all these things. And so, and then he was in the room with you by yourself reading a book, just little plants of seeds. And parental alienation is a form of abuse. And by God, I would take this to the box. This man is a victim of his children being turned against him. And it's, really sad. But we see it so many times.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. Heather, I'm curious to get your response to this. Mary thinking that this was a complete manipulation potentially by Angie Solomon, who again is behind bars on a $500,000 bond. Well, sorry, I have to unmute you. I'm sorry. There's feedback today, so I keep muting them. Go ahead.
All right. In unhealthy environments, when there's unhealthy family dynamics, generally everybody in the family is unhealthy in some way. There was probably abuse or some form of abuse. It was probably toxic from both directions, from Angie's direction and from Aaron's direction. Those kids, they probably got it from both directions. But I don't think that even if Angie was guilty of some form of parent alienation, I don't think that in and of itself would automatically discount the allegations of SA.
That's also an interest. I agree with you about that. Looking at Jetstream's comment here, the daughter didn't seem to relive anything while reading it. I don't know how easy it is to see if someone in real time is reliving it. I do think this reading of this documentation is a little strange. Lee T here again from Nashville. My heart breaks for Gracie. I'm going to finish. There's just a minute or so left on this. Let me see if I can get it to play now. Second time is not the charm, or the third or fourth or fifth time. Let me see here. No idea why this is not playing. Full Wi-Fi, technical difficulties, gave it a shot, and now I'm giving it no more of a shot. So Mark, back to you on this. The mother again, spoke publicly, and basically in the court of public opinion said all this stuff about Aaron Solomon. She even went so far as to say, "I strongly believe Aaron Solomon killed Grant." This is such a tough case. I'm stumped right now because there's so many layers. I mean, the biggest one potentially is obviously if these accusations are true, this is just devastating the family. But if they're not true, it's like equally devastating because this young girl would have been manipulated to the point where both she and it seems like her brother actually believes what the mother was saying if the accusations were not true. So it is so complex. How do you look at a case like this through your lens to know if you can go ahead? Prosecutors don't like to lose, right? So how do you know if you can go ahead and prosecute a case like this against the ex-husband on these specific SA charges? Oh, let me get to you there on the mute button. Sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
All right. Thank you. So in Tennessee, and I'm sure this is probably true in other states, prosecutors have a unique duty to not just pursue guilt, but also to protect innocence. And our Supreme Court and our Board of Ethics made it very clear over the years that we're ministers of justice. We're not just supposed to be out there trying to rack up convictions and put people in jail. And that's not what we do. I mean, we do that when we have to, but we try to help people a lot. And we want to see justice as much as anybody, but we certainly don't want to prosecute somebody for a crime they did not commit. And when you look at this, when you back this up to the 30,000-foot view, and kind of following up on what Mary said, what you have are extremely serious allegations being pushed out in public against this father. Whether or not you think he's a good father or not, he's being accused of rape, sexual abuse, murder against his own children. These have been investigated and reported and looked at by law enforcement and DAs and found to be not credible, not chargeable, not prosecutable. And now we have her attempting to murder him in the parking lot of a mall in Cool Springs, Tennessee. So, when you back all that up and kind of look at it from a distance, you start to see what appear to be some credibility issues. She's now charged with soliciting a hitman to murder her husband. And I understand the argument that maybe she was frustrated with the justice system as a whole. But there are other avenues to go through. There's juvenile court proceedings. There's civil court proceedings. There's divorce. There are many different ways to kind of tackle the problem that she seemed to be having with her husband. But what we've seen instead are these really, really serious public accusations. And what's ended up is she's in jail.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like she's getting out in the near future. But question for you, Mark, again from Tara Ellis here. By this point, would law enforcement have already looked into the SA allegations and made decisions on charge? I assume she's talking about the SA here, but I assume the answer is yes, right?
Yes, they would have.
Okay. So, Heather, to you, there's an affidavit that was released publicly regarding the murder for hire plot. This sounds like a Netflix, like a drama, not an actual story because it's so convoluted. But the affidavit reads, and I quote here, on April 1st, 2025, ironically, it was April Fool's Day, at approximately 2:15 p.m., Angie Solomon met with an undercover law enforcement officer acting as a hitman in the parking lot of 1800 Galleria Boulevard, Franklin, Williamson County, Tennessee, for the express purpose of hiring him to murder her ex-husband, Aaron Solomon. Angie Solomon promised future payment to the undercover officer, as well as provided the registration of her vehicle as a form of initial collateral payment for Aaron Solomon to disappear and to be put underground. Angie Solomon stated that this would provide her daughter access to a trust fund. And there's a quote again from Angie. given to the Daily Mail prior to her arrest, he deserves the death penalty. He doesn't deserve to be on this earth. What he did to both of my children. Heather, your response to this affidavit, the charges are serious here.
Well, yes, they are very serious. But like I said in the beginning, I really want to know more about how did she come into contact with that man? Was she solicited? Was she approached for, I think that with as long as she had been fighting for those children and not receiving the justice that she was fighting for, she was at her wit's end. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse for trying to hire somebody to murder your ex, but I think that I think that insanity could possibly be a plea here. Um I think she was there. She was there. She was at the end. She had no hope whatsoever in the justice system helping her any longer. And I wanted to reply to something that the general said actually. Because they didn't just automatically come out publicly with these accusations. There was years of these behind the scenes, things going on in court, and it was years of trying to get help and not getting help before things started going public. It was after Grant's death actually that things started going public. So it's not like they just, came out swinging and just get like a smear campaign. I think they turned to the public because they weren't getting what they needed from the justice system, and they were hoping, there's strength in numbers. I say that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Mary, back to you. I mean, here from little Biddle, I can't see anymore. Grant's death has never been fully investigated. Again, I'm having you put on different hats today, but if you are now going in to defend the mother who is actually behind bars, the father is not. The father's never been charged with anything in this case, but the mother now is facing this murder for hire plot. What do you do about what she considers, and many consider, to be an inadequate investigation into Grant's death, and probably into these SA charges as well?
Well, like I said, you use that to affect it affects her mental state at the time, and you know, you have to use it as mitigation. I don't think that you would use it as mitigation of what's going on in her with her if she gets convicted with her sentence. If looking at the charges, is there a lesser included offense? Is this intentionally doing something? Does it help negate an intent? Those types of things. I don't know about entrapment. Is what Heather was talking about, because if I think you said earlier is that she made statements like, I'm going to kill him, I'm going to do something like that. Well, and I'm going to hurt him, he's not fit and proper to live here or whatever. And so you can't be predisposed to commit the crime. And so those statements there would show that, what, she was predisposed to commit a crime. I mean, she's talking about it. And the general may have a different perspective because he is a DA and seems like a genius. So I'll defer to him.
Yeah. COE, I know you asked me about the 911 call. It was not played, but if you have it, we can play it. That would be a good thing. Let me know if you have it in the chat. But while we wait for that, General, I'm curious about something. These sting operations, you work in tandem with law enforcement, obviously, on this side of things, as a prosecutor. What's kind of like the inside baseball here? I mean, and before you answer that, let me just let everyone know. So they filed for divorce. Angie and Aaron did back in 2013. Very contentious divorce. 278 court filings. Angie had, as someone said earlier, a restraining order placed on her with limited visitation. And at the time, Grant and Gracie were actually back living with Angie when Grant died. But Mark, to you, how do these sting operations play out? I mean, who would tip off police? How do they know to follow up? At what point do you go in? How are you, capturing all this? What do you need to get said on camera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
So, in the case that we had against the attorney trying to kill his wife 3 times, he was running around trying to recruit hitmen out in the community. One of the people he tried to recruit contacted law enforcement, and they in turn contacted us. And we set up this clean, video recorded meeting in a parking lot of a public gas station. And that's where the defendant jumped right into the truck and proceeded to solicit the murder of his wife. I would strongly suspect, without having the benefit of looking at this case file, that that's what happened here, that she's out in the community trying to solicit somebody. That gets called into law enforcement. There was a tip somewhere, almost certainly, that led to this controlled solicitation by her with an undercover officer. I feel pretty confident that that's probably what happened. With regard to entrapment, that defense is really only available if law enforcement coerces you into doing something that you would not otherwise do and did not plan to do. I don't see that as a viable defense here. I think law enforcement is going to be showing up in a very neutral manner to record and listen to her. And she's providing details that run counter to an entrapment. She's talking about her daughter getting a trust fund and how he needs to just completely disappear. And these are not details that law enforcement would be using to coerce her in any way. So I don't see that. And I do anticipate there will be some attempt here to create or look at a mental health defense. I do not believe she's going to be competent to stand trial. There's only 2 mental health issues. The first is competency. Do you understand the charges against you? Can you work with your attorney to defend yourself? Do you know who the judge is and what he does, and so forth and so on? She's going to be competent. The other is insanity. Did she know right from wrong at the time that she committed the offense? And I believe that her statements to the officer in probably on film are going to run counter to an insanity defense. You would know what you're doing is wrong.
I mean, Mark, let me interrupt you there. What's the kind of the threshold? How do you know if someone's actually insane or incompetent?
So that's an affirmative defense that the defendant can put on at trial and try to convince a jury that they did not understand right from wrong at the time of the crime, at the time of the commission of the offense. And once they put on some proof of that, then the burden shifts to the state to convince a jury that she did, in fact, know right from wrong. And it becomes a jury question, right? So, if you've got a good mental evaluation, let's say that the defendant goes and gets a mental evaluation and they say that she was, in fact, insane at the time of the offense. She didn't understand right from wrong. You would expect the state to ask for a second evaluation. In my case, if it's my case and I've got 2 evaluations saying that she didn't know right from wrong, I'm going to evaluate that. And what are my chances in front of a jury of convincing them otherwise? And do I need to resolve this case? However, when you're telling an undercover officer that you have a motive to have your husband killed because this trust fund comment, and he needs to be underground, you pretty much know right from wrong. You have a goal in mind. You're not confused about what's going on here, and you're offering payment. You're even offering up your car as an initial payment. I think a jury is going to have a hard time buying an insanity defense here.
Yeah, unless Mary Turner is your criminal defense attorney. Mary, to you, is this your only shot and hope for this defendant who's now on a $500,000 bond? I mean, the story is turned upside down because at first it was all the ire was against the father. Now all the ire is against the ex-wife, the mother. The obvious victims in this case are the 2 children, sadly. Grant no longer here, and Gracie, she's going to have to live with this horror story. And again, if she wants to come on, survivingthesurvivor@gmail.com. Same goes to the father, Aaron. Mary, is this the only hope for Angie now? Is to say, hey, I was just in a temporary moment of insanity, or I was incompetent. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just so stressed out. Is that I say that to my mother and she tells me to grow up and grow a pair, but will it work for her?
Um, I agree with the general. And in Alabama, we don't have something called temporary insanity. I do not know about Tennessee, but sounds like we fall in line with what Tennessee does with the competency. And did you know right from wrong? We don't have a temporary insanity thing. Again, what I would try to do is use her mental state as a mitigator to negate some type of whatever the intent is in this charge. And so did she intentionally hire this person, da 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 da? Is there some other lesser included, some other mental state that would fit it better than what she's charged with, right? I mean, obviously she's charged with a very, very serious offense. And so I would look to use that as a mitigation. But mental illness, just because somebody is mentally ill does not mean that they're not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. They can still know right from wrong at the time of the offense. So I agree with the general as far as the insanity plea and the competency stand trial. And I would look at the law and pursue some type of charge, maybe some type of lesser included offense. But again, this is me just blind with not hearing any of the tapes from the officers and everything like that. It's just what we read in the newspaper. And I did read an affidavit, and if that affidavit stands true with audio, video, or whatever they had in the situation, then again, that we would use her mental state to negate some of the intent or whatever that's involved.
Yeah. In this case, also proven to be divisive. Doris here, obviously Doris's take, not ours. The children witnessed the abuse. He's a control freak. He has connections in high places. And then you switch over to Lee in Nashville too. I think Angie has been eaten up with hatred, which is something. If the general was there prosecuting this case, might be his opening line of the entire trial. General, and then we'll get some final thoughts in a moment. What kind of time is she facing in Tennessee for this alleged murder for hire plot that she was apparently caught on video talking about? Well, stand by there, Mark. There you go. You're good.
Murder is a class A felony in Tennessee. Solicitation would be a class below that. So I believe it would be a B felony, 8 to 12 years, possibly. Could be more than that, depending on whether or not she has a prior record. So with regard to Mary's comments, I think probably what you're looking at there is, even if you don't have a true insanity defense, you're probably going to try to put on some evidence of mental disease, defect, or suffering emotionally, to maybe try to get the jury, just get some jury nullification, and just get the jury to drop down from solicitation of murder to something else, even if it doesn't make any sense. Juries sometimes will do that, and all you need is one or two jurors to find something about her past or her mental state to be sympathetic, or give them some kind of doubt in their mind, and just try to muddy the waters and get the jury to come down to something other than solicitation of murder.
Thank you. The COE, look at this. Blackwood Door in the Republic of Ireland, of all places, put my book in the local library. That warms my heart. Thank you, Blackwood Door. Too kind of you. I really appreciate it. COE, can we play that? She pulled the 911 call. Let's listen to it real quickly, and then we'll get final thoughts. COE, I'm afraid to play anything today because nothing is working. But here we go.
It's 1357 South Water Street. It's off 109. Please hurry.
You said 57?
Please hurry.
Okay, what's going on?
1357. My son's truck backed over him, and it's rolled over him and drug him into the ditch, and it's on top of him. He's trapped under the truck, and somehow it drug him underneath it. Yes, my son is under it. I'm trying to call 911.
Okay, what's your name?
Oh my God. My name is Angie Solomon.
And you said
Oh my God.
1357 South Water Avenue.
COE, hold that
right?
for a second. Hold that for a
Yes.
second.
How old
Yes.
is the male?
We're gonna pick it up in a second. Heather, your reaction so far. I'm trying to put myself, God forbid, in his shoes. It doesn't seem like he's running to help him. It's like that he's calling him. If it was me, I don't even know if I'd be able to make the call because I'd be trying to dig my kid out from under the car. Again, it's hard to say what you're going to do in real time. What is your reaction to what we've heard so far? Oh, and hang on one sec for me. Go ahead there, Heather.
It just doesn't feel genuine. Like listening to it, it doesn't feel genuine. I don't feel the emotion in his voice.
It's interesting because I'm just thinking of the Ellen Greenberg case, and
Mhm.
that's the exact opposite. It's like so histrionic and to me disingenuous. This one's a little tougher. COE, let's play it out and then we'll get final thoughts.
He's 18. He just turned 18 a couple weeks, about a month ago. It's my son. Oh my God. Oh my God, this is not good.
Is he awake and
Oh, please
talking to
hurry.
you?
I don't think so. He's not alert, right? No, he's out. And he's trapped. I got 3 guys here and he's trapped under the truck.
Okay.
Oh my God.
I understand, sir. Stay on the phone with me while we get somebody out there. What's your name?
Aaron Solomon.
All right, Aaron.
Huh?
What kind of vehicle is it?
It's a Toyota Tacoma, and the vehicle he's underneath the vehicle.
Okay, I've
And
got that.
and it's
Okay, I've got that. What color is it?
it's a white truck. That's my son. It's somehow backed up. Yeah. Yeah, I'm on with 911 right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Was your son working on it?
No, he was just getting out of it. It's the hill. We're on an incline, and I guess he didn't have it in park or something, or it wasn't engaged, or. Oh my God. Oh my God, I can't believe
still not
this.
responding?
No.
And he's still
No.
under truck. No one can get
Yes.
out from under it.
No,
We've got units en route to you. I'm just asking you questions for we can update them, okay? Can you check and see if he's breathing?
Somebody's telling me that he's coming to.
Okay.
Maybe.
He is waking up,
Maybe.
kind of keeping still. So he is
Well, he
breathing?
can't. Yeah, he can't move. I don't think he can move. I don't know.
Okay, I understand.
No, he can't move. He's trapped.
Okay, we got somebody en route. Now, when he wakes up, he might
I'm
be
telling him,
scared.
man.
Can somebody
I'm
just get
telling
down
him.
there and talk to him?
Yeah, somebody talked to him. Shit. There's blood. Is he facing up or down? He's facing up. They said he may aspirate. We need to hurry. Oh my God.
So does he have blood coming out of his mouth?
Yeah, there's blood coming out. Yeah, somehow it drug him down, I think. I don't know whether it wasn't in park or what, or if it didn't engage the brake, or it drug him underneath somehow.
Okay.
They said he's facing up.
Okay.
But he's bleeding from his mouth. So, Grant, turn your face to the side if you can, barely, but be careful.
Don't move him, okay?
We can't move him. We can't move him. Oh my God.
All right, reason they're there. I'm gonna let you go, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
That for me that changes things a little bit. For full disclosure, I did not listen to it before. I've got some issues with that 911 call. I think I'd have to listen to it again. Paulette here says, "I know we all react differently, but there's something not right there." You can hear like when he is. First of all, I just can't if it's my son again, I'm going to try to do whatever I can, mouth to mouth, CPR, move the car. it is what's interesting to me, Mary, is he kind of goes in and out of certain like emotive states. Like he's with the 911 operator, he's a little forlorn, but the minute he's distracted, he's back in a totally normal tone of voice. I don't know if that's normal or not. Mary, is there such a thing as a normal 911 call? Does this seem odd to you? My bad again. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Here we go. I got you, Mary. Go ahead.
There's no such thing as a normal 911 call. And I just think that both the prosecutors and defense attorneys try to interpret the best they can and, explain a reaction and use it either to their benefit. I mean, obviously to their benefit. And if something's not to their benefit, we're spin doctors, right? So we spin it to try to explain stuff. So is it the worst 911 call I ever heard? No. I've heard matter of fact 911 calls when someone's been shot dead right in front of them. I think our emotions or whatever and how we deal with stuff affect the way that we talk. The guy oscillates between it being upset, not upset. Maybe he couldn't touch his son. Maybe he couldn't deal with his son. I mean, I've had children hurt, and I was a nurse, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, whatever. So it just kind of depends. And maybe these guys told him to stay away. Let us try to deal with it or whatever. You call 911. We don't really hear what's going on initially before the call comes on and he's talking. And our 911 calls pick up probably the first maybe 30 seconds or so before they're even on with the 911 operator. So you can actually hear them talking to someone or doing something before they pick up. So I don't know if we have all that 911 call, to tell you the truth.
General, I'd like you to respond to the 911 call. Again, you and Mary are the ones that sift through this stuff on a regular basis. You just never know, Mark, how people are going to react, but I certainly would have questions about that call. Would you?
I can look at it in hindsight and tell you I would not have been making that call. That somebody else would have been making that call. I'd have been on the ground with my son. But be that as it may, I'm kind of with Mary. You just don't know how people are going to react under pressure, under that kind of circumstance. I do agree that people could find that to be that reaction to be confusing or debatable. But, the case that's pending is not going to be a trial against Aaron for the death of Grant. The case that's pending is going to be the trial of the defendant for trying to have her husband murdered. And I don't expect this I know the defense may try to make some use of that, but I would expect a judge to find that that's not terribly relevant. And that can be a double-edged sword. The prosecution could use this belief by the wife to be a motive, for her trying to murder him. All these accusations that she's throwing at him that so far have not resulted in any charges or prosecutions. So,
Mark, does this even the case that's pending against her? Does this even come in? Did the jurors even know that this son was killed in this "quote unquote" freak accident?
It's not relevant to the prosecution, which in my opinion makes it not relevant at all. She may try to make an issue of it and try to claim that he's really the victim is really the bad guy here. But again, I'd be careful with that. If the judge lets any of that in, I think the prosecution can make some use of it to say, okay, judge, if the jury's going to hear that, then we're going to make the argument that that's a motive. No charges were brought and she's still carrying on about this. And that's a motive for her to try to kill him.
Yeah. I just can't believe this. I didn't realize that Aaron Solomon drives off in the same car, that they would even allow that. We'll get final thoughts now. Heather Cohen is a private investigator. She was on our show regarding Sebastian Rogers, who still has never been found. Real quickly on that, Heather, any developments on that front? Any sightings or anything?
No. Mm-mm.
No, that's so sad. If you guys remember, he was on the autism spectrum, went missing, and that is an ongoing case. But
I'm no longer working that case though.
okay,
Yeah, I have a friend that's working it now, but I'm not working that one.
all right.
Um,
But Heather, real quick, let me just ask you. So,
Yeah.
people are saying his legs were sticking out in the opposite direction from what the way they thought they should be sticking out. He's found face up under the truck. The EMS report lists minimal injuries, a laceration to the head, bruises on the hip and thigh. What's interesting is he's got a severe jaw impact. I mean, that could all be from the angle. I guess my question before your final thoughts is, from a private investigator standpoint, is there any way to kind of reenact this to see if, or what tools could be used? That and your final thoughts.
Absolutely. In fact, if I was hired to investigate this case, that's exactly what I would do, is try to reenact it. And I would probably enlist the help of experts, people that, have all the experience in this sort of thing, that they could, actually testify in court one way or the other. But I had heard that 911 call before, and listening to it just now, something kind of struck me that never struck me before. And we know from Angie that Grant was planning to confront his father that day. I thought, you know, um, okay, a little personal story here. Growing up, I was in some bad relationships, and there were times when, things would get really, really heated, and we'd be going at it, and, you just blood's boiling, and something would happen. Like, for instance, one time, I went to shut the door, and my boyfriend kicked the door, and it hit me in the face and broke my nose. And the moment that he saw the blood, he panicked. He's like, "Oh my God, we gotta get you to the hospital." But what if this was that kind of situation? What if this was a situation where it was heated, they were going at it, and that's why, because they were fighting, that's why he forgot to put it in park. Not because he was excited to go play ball or whatever, but because they were absolutely, one in this heated argument, fighting. And I could see that happening when you're arguing with somebody and you're not thinking, and you just jump out of the vehicle. So that might explain, some of Aaron's that might explain some of Aaron's response too. Because you can hear, I don't know if I hear emotion, but I hear some panic. And it's like, and that could also be why he didn't run down to him, because, they were in this heated argument when this happened. So I don't know. It's just a theory,
Yeah.
but I think it makes sense.
But I guess bottom line question is, it sounds like this all around needs some more investigating. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And it needs, no offense, I'm not speaking ill of that jurisdictional agency, but it needs fresh eyes. It needs a new jurisdictional agency to come in and take over the investigation.
There you go. Mary Turner, she is a formidable criminal defense attorney out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. She's looking up. I hope she's not frozen like that, Mary. Is she frozen? She looks like she could be frozen. So you know what? I'm going to go to, she's looking up, asking God for a favor there. General, your final thoughts on this. I mean, how strong do you think the case is at this point against Angie Solomon in this twisting and turning story, where one moment, she is, proclaiming to be the victim here of her ex-husband. Now she's a suspect and she's incarcerated at the county jail, I guess pending trial or being able to bond out. But how strong do you think the government's case will be against her? Will she go away for this? Let me get you off there. Yeah, go ahead.
Assuming that there is a video of the undercover operation where she solicits the murder of her husband, I think it's going to be a pretty strong case. So, and I would expect the judge to limit irrelevant material. So things that predated her attempt to murder her husband by a year or 2 years or 3 years are not very relevant. So I would expect the prosecution to limit the evidence in this case to what happened at the time of the solicitation in the parking lot of the Green Hills or Cool Springs Mall. And if they're successful in doing that and the jury doesn't get drugged into hearing a whole lot of this background stuff, I think it's a very strong case.
And lastly, Mark, I guess my question is, what would it take for either the investigation into this accident or the SA accusations for those to be opened up against the father here? In this particular case, what is the kind of barrier to entry for those two investigations being reopened or opened for the first time?
I would believe that from a criminal perspective, that those investigations have been done and concluded. Now, there could be attempts to file some civil litigation. I don't know if that's happened or not in the past. So there could be independent efforts to re-examine these cases, but I would be surprised if there's any real mechanism to require law enforcement or a different agency to come in after this passage of time and try to reinvestigate these cases that have already been looked at and reviewed by the respective DAs.
You're hearing it from a real life active district attorney in the great state of Tennessee. Last but not least, Mary Turner is back as her picture is bleeding out a little bit with poor Wi-Fi. We're gonna have to get her better Wi-Fi in her law firm. Mary, we will start a GoFundMe for better Wi-Fi for you. Your final thoughts here. Is this woman going to serve time? Is she going to go down for this crime? And same question I just asked Mark. Do you think there's a chance they reopen any of these cases potentially or investigate them for the first time against the father?
I'm going to start with the last question. No, I don't think they reopen it. And then the first question is, do I think she's going to serve some time? I don't know. I think it's early on and there's a lot of moving parts to this. And, I just can't say right now that she's going to serve time. I mean, how long is she going to be in jail before she goes to trial? Is she going to be able to make this bond, which is, probably not. Sometimes I don't know if they have this in Tennessee. General can speak to that, but sometimes there's split sentences and things like that. And, you serve enough time in jail, maybe that's enough. Some of our cases in Alabama take about 5 or 6 years to go to trial because of the backlog. So it just all depends, but I can't just sit here and say, oh, she's going to prison.
This is a case a lot of people thought was kind of behind them and over to a degree, but now it has taken this crazy turn with the ex-wife of Angie Solomon under arrest and behind bars in the murder for hire plot to kill him, to kill this guy in the reddish shirt. There you see Angie, Grant, and Gracie in better times. By the way, they say that Grant was, on his way to possibly collegiate baseball, if not more. He was an excellent baseball player, so that also is tragic. But the real victims, of course, Gracie and Grant Solomon, who is sadly no longer with us. We're going to continue to follow this story tomorrow. By the way, Scott's in. Phil now has an obligation, so Phil Ramos is filling in for Phil Waters. And we're going to look, tomorrow will be a crazy day. We're going to look at the Taylor Shop Business police interview and have them break it down. It is a wild one. So please like, subscribe, come back. Love having you here. Love you, Tennessee, Alabama. I don't even know what to say. Go Vols, go Ole Miss for the general. And I know you guys love your football. So it's not football season, but we'll get there eventually. Vanderbilt, all those different places. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night. And
thank you for having us. Had a good time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Nice to meet you guys. General Mary, you guys are brilliant. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you all. And let's think about Grant and Gracie tonight. Take care, everybody.
All right.